Is it hard for you to talk about your sexual wants, needs, and desires? Well, you're not alone. It's hard for everybody, and that's no pun intended. Are you hard right now and can't talk about it? Well, if so, this podcast is for you. Hi, I'm Toby. I'm from the band Emery. I've also led a bunch of men's groups with the True Man Experience, and I'm working on this podcast with Dr. Stormy, who is an amazing sex coach who has helped so many people, and that's what we're here to do. We were here to open up the conversation. You need to be able to talk about your sexual desires, your wants, and yes, even your needs, and where you can take your sex life with your partner. So sit back, relax. We're taking listener questions. We're going to have a great episode. Join us because this is the sex education you always wish you would have gotten. All right, we got a really good episode today because I'm excited because I've always wondered. We're talking about myths and truths of aphrodisiacs. And because I remember when I was a kid in the movies, maybe it was like Porky's. You remember that old movie? That was like my first where I was like, whoa, somehow my dad put that on and I watched Porky's and I was like, whoa, what is this? I was like, oh my gosh. But I remember there used to be like aphrodisiacs. They talk about it in movies or comedy, like the Spanish fly would turn people on, or there's all these things. And I always wondered, there's always been some at least mythological things that like you do this and it just turns everybody on and sex becomes amazing. And I was always at the time I was like, oh yeah, I got to find these magical elixirs. And then as I got older, I was like, I guess I don't know if those actually exist or not. So today we're going to be talking about that, the myths and truths of aphrodisiacs. So I'm kind of excited about this one, Stormy.
Yeah, it's a fun one. It's like a little nerdier, which is right up my alley. Yeah. So it's perfect. But it's an interesting thing. I mean, first of all, like they've gone back, like aphrodisiacs, the history of them goes back thousands of years. And so what that shows me as the sex and intimacy coach is that really, like, people really want to be great lovers. I say this all the time. People want to have fabulous sex and they want to give fabulous sex, right? They want to be great lovers. And so, I love that because I want us all to be better lovers, right? And so the idea, what aphrodisiacs mean is that it's food, drinks, or herbs that allegedly, I'm going to say, we'll get into this in a second, raise your desire for sex, increase your arousal, or enhance performance, right? So that's what they are by definition. They again, have been around for a long time, right? Thousands of years. The word aphrodisiac comes from the name Aphrodite, the Greek goddess of love. Okay, so it's meant to like stimulate love, right? On that note, kind of randomly, there is an amazing book that I highly recommend by Isabel Allende called Aphrodite. That's just popped in my head. It's an incredible book, but she talks about how aphrodisiacs brought her back to life, right? After when she was healing from grief and trauma in her life, that aphrodisiacs, she talks about, literally like brought color back into her life. So it's a beautiful book. It's like beautiful pictures. And part of her mission is that aphrodisiacs don't have to be like sheep hooves or, like randomly little mysterious, exotic things. They should be things that we have in our kitchen cupboards. So that's a beautiful book to check that out.
I want to check that out. That sounds really interesting. So she was healing from grief, and aphrodisiacs helped her find her sexuality again, or her whole self.
Yeah. Wow. Like her whole life, her whole vibrancy. And it's just it's a beautiful book. The pictures and the recipes and everything in it are amazing. So, and I love how she writes. She's a fabulous writer. So awesome. That's a little tip. But so if you look at aphrodisiacs in general, we kind of group them. So, there's foods, there's herbs, there's other substances that are all meant to, again, like increase arousal or enhance performance or increase your desire for sex. They work in lots of different ways, like by lowering cortisol. We're going to get into some specifics here in a second. They might raise your testosterone, and they just might make you feel less stressed. And we've talked about that stress is a pleasure buster. So if we feel less stressed, we have more breadth for turn on, for pleasure. And so those are kind of how we group the aphrodisiacs. I always go to the research. The research is very split on aphrodisiacs. Lots of research says they do nothing. Lots of research says they do something. So, and then there's a ton of research on how maybe they do something, but it's placebo. And my whole thing is, I don't give a shit. If it's placebo, it's placebo. Who cares? If it works, it works, right? Like
Right.
if the power of our mind is what placebo is, right? The power of the willingness for us to be open to turn on. So
You're totally right.
personally,
I've actually said that a ton about, because we run Marriage Supply. It's a sex toy company.
yeah.
The sex toys work. They will help. You in the bedroom and sexually, but a lot of it's just your mind. The idea that you would buy a sex toy, that you would share that with your partner, that y'all would do this together. That whole sexuality, mental sexuality, is so huge and so important.
Absolutely, right? I love that, right? Like you're creating a sexy space. You're doing something novel. You might be picking out a toy together. You might be planning a sexy night. Personally, for me, that's how aphrodisiacs have worked in my life. It's like, I'm like, great, why not? Why not cook with things and have things around that may turn me on, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's placebo or based on my cortisol, I don't really care. Like,
right.
So, I do want to say that the caveat, just because I love the research, we're going to go into some in a minute, but if you're talking about herbs, if you're talking about foods, unless you have an allergy, there's not really that much to consider as far as risk. But if you're talking about herbs, there is, because herbs can interact with your prescriptions. They can impact blood pressure and heart rate and things like that. So, check with your doctor if you really want to, if you were taking other medication, or if you have any other health issues, if you want to get into the herbs as aphrodisiacs. So that's just sort of the caveat. It's just good practice. It's good health, being your own health advocate, because some of the herbs can interact with other medications, with prescription medications.
That's a good point.
So let's just start with food, though. Right, because to me, I'm like, food, we all have to eat. So I might as well, this is what Isabel Allende says, we might as well eat sexy foods, because we all have to eat, right?
So is it just bananas and melons? Is that what you're talking about? Cucumbers, zucchini, bananas, and melons.
So the book Aphrodite does break it into like cheeses and fruits and, different areas. But basically I like to think of it as the food that stimulates your love senses, right? So your sight, your sound, your smell, your taste, your touch, right? So just to kind of get it, like, so nuts, like, are one category, and that may be because they increase blood flow, right? Better blood flow, more pleasure, more erections, all that. Blood flow is good in the right parts. So nuts for blood flow, things like avocados for hormone balance, but also for histamine, which is important for orgasm. So avocados are something that are often mentioned. Pomegranates, right? Pomegranates, they can be really great for testosterone, right? They also are super high in antioxidants, right? So the research wouldn't say this is the causality. They say maybe it's because of this. It's reported that it can help, right? Maybe it's placebo again, right? One of my favorites, I think it should be its own food group. It is actually, in my opinion, is chocolate, right? I actually have a tattoo of it on my forearm, because phenylethylamine is the compound that's we experience in chocolate. They call it the chemical of love, right? So dark chocolate is known to be an aphrodisiac for that reason.
I didn't know that.
Yeah,
and I didn't know a histamine. A histamine helps with orgasms. I didn't know that either.
It's a part of like the orgasm cascade. Yeah. And so, right, but we're not talking about like sneezy over, like, right. Sneezing it.
Yeah.
Right? Like different. So, but yeah, and it's interesting. I mean, I think of like a lot of the fruits, like berries, right? So for flavonoids, like, may help with erection, and again, that blood flow piece. You hear about oysters all the time. Oysters are really popular, like, literally, like, and it's so funny because I have this thing, like, if my boyfriend's eating oysters, I'm like, ooh, look at lucky me, like. I don't know, again, if it's placebo or not, but it's a joke between us, because I actually don't like oysters, but
I don't eat oysters. Yeah, I can never eat. I've tried so much. No.
I keep trying, mainly because I hear they're such great aphrodisiacs, but like, I'm going to go Jim Gaffigan. For me, they taste like snot rocks.
I know. You're right, from the ocean. That's what I've always thought. Yeah. Everybody in South Carolina, growing up near the coast, they were everywhere. People, oh, you got to have one. And then they just suck it out of the shell. And I'm like, I'm going to throw up. I
know. I don't like it either, but they do, because of a ton of zinc. They are known to be aphrodisiacs, right? There is, they're pretty well known, well reported, not well studied, but well reported to be aphrodisiacs. But, those are some of the common foods. Like, there's a whole section in Aphrodite book on cheeses and things like that. But I like to think of it as things that are smooth, rich, creamy, and exotic when it comes to food, right? So think about, like, if you're on an island and you're eating an exotic fruit for the first time, there is this little bit of like, ooh, right? Like, yay, look at this, is novel. There's this playfulness. I have no idea what the hell this fruit is, right? And so again, the power of our mind and bringing in that. So think smooth, rich, creamy, and exotic to bring in some foods that may work as aphrodisiacs.
Yeah, and even as we're talking here, it really does remind me that like food is can be very sensual. You know, you're drizzling the
Mm-hmm.
dressing, you're
Mm-hmm.
cooking the steak, you're hearing the sizzle, things are
Mm-hmm.
doing things are getting hot. And yeah, I mean, it really can be sensual. I haven't really thought about it as much that
Totally.
way. Yeah.
They like chocolate covered strawberries gets is like a, they think of it like, right, that's why they sell them, jack up the prices of Valentine's Day. So yeah, we got chocolate, we got fruit, we got berries and chocolate, two possible food aphrodisiacs. But also to me, it also represents romance, right?
Yeah.
You're going out and buying, maybe you have them once a year or not even like, but so it's something different, it's something novel, it's something romantic, which also works as an aphrodisiac. So
Awesome. Yeah, I love chocolate too.
yeah,
I mean, chocolate
me too.
is that one always gets me.
Me too. It's literally one of my many tattoos, but I
Yeah.
love it so much. I had this thing about chocolate for breakfast, and I told my boyfriend, I said, "I'm having my breakfast chocolate." He's like, "You know that that's not breakfast food." I was like, "It totally should be. Why not? Why not?"
Right.
So I think it should be a breakfast food, whether it's an aphrodisiac or not. I think it should be breakfast food. Mm.
All right. What
So
else?
so
What
that
else I got going?
yeah, so those are foods. So herbs, some of the common herbs, there's tons of information out there, but things like ginkgo, ginseng, maca, there's one called horny goatweed, which I think is aptly named. There is a lot of different herbs out there, but again, they may interact with your prescription medication, but they mainly work on same thing, blood flow, and they're helping with blood flow and libido, right? Those are the areas that are mostly reported. So there's tons of different things out there. There's, I think you can't scroll on Instagram late at night without getting some herb that's like meant to help a
Right.
sex drive, right? So but being thoughtful about the herbs, like, so for my son has heart disease, and so I would say to him, you have to be more careful with herbs because many of the herbs affect heart rate and blood pressure, and you have heart disease, right? So just knowing your own health history and being a really good health advocate for yourself. But there is a lot of reports that it helps in the herb area, and reports that it doesn't. And again, that placebo effect plays into that.
Yeah, and blood flow in general is super important. So that I was probably for about a year I was putting maca powder in my coffee, and I
Mm-hmm.
and then just I got lazy or just didn't re-up it on Amazon or whatever the one I was
Mm-hmm.
getting, wherever I was getting it from. But I did feel like I did feel a little something, like I don't know if it was just, I mean, I don't know if like I had better erections or anything like that, but it was more like I did feel something, like I felt something, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
I thought it was, like something with blood flow, my heart, my body, my performance, athletically, even, exercising and stuff like that. I felt like
Yeah.
it did help improve it for sure.
Totally. Yeah, it's beautiful. And there's like I said, these are thousands of years old. But I think the idea, and that those are kind of really the two genres I wanted to go into from a science perspective, but more esoterically is like, why not? Like I said, you have to eat, so why not bring in things that, and our last episode was on eroticism, and I think of food can be very erotic. So use food in an erotic way for yourself, for your own benefit, for pleasure's sake, but also, yeah, maybe there is something that helps you to feel more turned on. And again, like turned on by life, turned on by food. And that's how Allende describes it, is that she literally felt turned on by food. She's not talking about sexual turn on. She's talking about turned on to herself, to life, to vibrancy.
Right. And it's obvious that and I'm not gonna shit on McDonald's because I do like McDonald's. I do like some chain restaurant stuff. But if I eat McDonald's, if I eat a hamburger, French fries, and a Coke,
Mm-hmm.
I definitely don't feel good. So food can make
Right.
me not feel good. So it must have the same opposite effect. You eat good food and it can make you feel good.
Right.
Mentally, even if you're right, even if it is a
Totally.
placebo, you are feeling way better. Even if that's just, I ate healthy today, I'm feeling really proud of myself. That can,
Totally.
those things can turn you on. Getting in shape, eating
Absolutely.
these foods that are healthier. You go, whoa, I ate some food that Stormy called aphrodisiacs, and I lost a pound this week. I feel good, or something like that. That might
Yeah,
not happen, but I'm just
exactly.
saying there's all kinds of things that can happen there. For sure, food can
Right.
make you not feel good.
Right, exactly. So this is using food the opposite way, like to help you feel good, right? I live half the time in Costa Rica, and down there's nothing processed. I mean, it's way more fruits. That's hot
Mm,
as shit. I'm sweating all the time. Like, but I feel healthier. I also feel more turned on by life itself, more turned on to sexual energy in Costa Rica than I do here. And that's something I'm working on because I love the United States. I love living here in Utah, but and I don't feel as connected to my own eroticism here,
yeah.
and to me, absolutely part of that is food and how processed things are here and how I eat here versus how I eat in Costa Rica, right? So that's on me, right? Have the invitation to be personally responsible and accountable and change how I eat, move, and live here in Utah.
Yeah.
And so that kind of brings me to this whole the last episode we did was on erotic energy, and so I love working with, and food can absolutely, these aphrodisiacs and food can basically, it taps you into erotic energy. I made an erotic energy guide into erotic energy, and so it's one of our personal development series. But for our listeners today, just shoot me an email, stormy@lovedeeplab.com, and just put erotic energy guide in the subject, and I will send it to you for free. But it's a great way to like start to begin to cultivate that, and food might be part of that for you.
Totally. I agree. All right. Anything else you got going?
No,
Oh,
that'll do for aphrodisiacs, I think.
yeah. Yeah. I think so. I really like what you're saying there is that there might be something to it. And also, there's definitely something to it mentally. There
Mm-hmm.
is something which, we said it on the last episode. We said almost every episode, the brain is the most important organ when having sex. And it is
Mm-hmm.
feeling a certain way is so important. I know. I mean, the same way as that's why for me, honestly, I'm a pretty audible person. So music, can be a turn on. The same way music can make
Absolutely.
me feel good. Gets into my ears. I start dancing a little bit. I'm feeling a certain way. I'm swaying.
Totally.
Same way as a nice steak. I cut into that steak, and oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
it's funny. I used to like my most of my life. My family did not ever cook a steak like medium even nowhere near rare, you know what I mean? The first time I
Mm-hmm.
had a rare steak was a friend's grandmother. We were at Outback Steakhouse of all places.
Uh-huh.
I just
Uh-huh.
I just stuffed myself with a blooming onion, and she goes, "You don't." She said, "Your steak is a hockey puck. Try mine." And it was red, and I was so scared. And I ate that thing, and I was like, "Whoa,
Whoa.
there's something
Mm-hmm.
different about
Mm-hmm.
this. The texture,
Mm-hmm.
the taste, the juiciness of the
Taste.
steak." And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, on a
Totally.
certain level, I definitely was turned on, not by their grandmother, but by the
Right.
food. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like it really was
Absolutely.
it really was something that I was like,
Mm-hmm.
whoa, this food, and the idea of the preparation of it and the cooking of it and how
Mm-hmm.
good it can be, how you can make this piece of meat taste so much different than the ones I'd had before. It can be really powerful. So yeah, I'm like,
Yeah.
all the drinks, the elixirs, all those things. Take like you said earlier, be safe, but there's some fun things to try out there.
Yeah,
All right,
totally.
I knew you were going to get into the facts here, so the stump. I got a stump Stormy.
It's time to Stump Stormy.
And I just got two sex facts that I wanted to see if you could answer this. Okay.
Okay.
So, sex fact number one: after fingers and vibrators, what is the most phallic objects? What is the phallic object used most often by female masturbators?
Hmm.
After
After
fingers,
fingers and
yep, fingers and vibrators are off the table. What is the phallic object that is most often used by female masturbators?
mm,
They could have said just
as
women who masturbate or
I
just
know. Well, I mean,
female masturbators. Sounds weird.
I think like statistically, I think women use pillows like the
Yeah,
most to like ride against, but that's not going to be very phallic.
right.
But it gives more clitoral stimulation. But I mean, I don't know. The only thing that's coming to mind is like, so maybe because we're just talking about fruits and foods and vegetables, but it's a cucumber. But I
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, that's an aphrodisiac
I
food.
don't
Usually use
recommend
that.
it putting a cucumber up there though.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Not with the Monsanto pesticides. Stay away from that stuff. That's not going to be good. Actually, it is candles. Candles are the most phallic object used by the female.
Okay, I don't recommend putting candles up there either.
I don't either.
Just so I can be on record saying that. Don't use cucumbers. Don't use candles. Your fingers and pillows are lovely.
I know. You do not need to go to Bed Bath & Beyond and get your just go to Marriage Supply. Dear God, we'll hook you up. So, and your fingers are great. Your fingers are great. So, all right, I got one more for you.
Definitely go to Marriage Supply.
What is the most common cause of penile rupture?
So I would say girl on top, like rough sex. Like that would be what I would say.
That's what I would say. I think that was the second one. It's actually vigorous masturbation. Self-pleasure, guys going way too hard, maybe too often. And I don't even know really. I mean, I guess a rupture means vein ruptures or something. And then I don't know what that,
very,
how
very
much that's
very painful for the man to experience. Yeah.
And I guess they can recover from that though. I mean,
yeah. Well, sometimes, usually. So almost always. But I think what that shows me there is like, right. We have a lot of episodes on different self-pleasure, like, but broaden that, like, don't hurt yourself. It's literally called self-pleasure for a reason, not self-rupture, so being, don't shame yourself if that happened, but then, broadening how you self-pleasure. And, I maybe that should be a whole episode, but I would really want to encourage our listeners to like learn to make love to yourself, not just get yourself off, because those are very different things.
Yeah. I read an article the other day about men who masturbate too hard are losing feeling and sensation. So when they have sex, they're having a harder time staying erect or staying, or staying in the moment because they're losing their erection because it's not as hard as their hand is. So, all right, you did good. Let's move on to listener questions.
Have a question? We've got answers. Here's this week's listener question.
This first one's a little long. I'm very much in love with my wife and family, and we have a great time together. The issue I've been having is that we don't have sex that often. We maybe have sex once a month. I have talked to her about this, and she says with kids, work, and responsibilities that we have, it's hard to make time for sex, and that she's often really tired. This has resulted in me watching porn and satisfying myself. I'm a little concerned that I'm growing dependent on porn now, though. What is normal porn use? And he also adds in there, also being Christians, my wife and I do not discuss this at all. And that is a very tough one. That one, it was even in my life. The times that I used porn and didn't talk about it with my ex when we were married or girlfriends or anything, it was very shameful. I didn't want to talk about it. It made me honestly rely on it more. And then when you're hidden, you have to go to a weird place in your house to go look at it. It's just
secretive and
it's not good.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a really tender question, right? So to answer you asked about normal porn use. Well, I put normal in quotes because the first thing I'll say, I'm not going to give you some statistics here in a moment, but first thing I'll say is, does it feel normal for you, right? Does it feel like, I can hear, it sounds like you're actually like a little concerned about your porn use. So look at that gently with self-compassion. But there is normal really is subjective, right? Does it feel like it's okay porn use for you? Are you dealing with guilt? Does it take away from your intimacy with your partner? Do you prefer porn over actual sex, right? Like, so these are some questions to get curious about. But some of the statistics porn is very, very, very common used. There's actually research out there. Some people don't even think porn addiction is a thing. Some people think porn addiction is a thing and isn't a thing. You got split camps on that one. But some of the statistics are 6 in 10 Americans report having watched pornography at some point in their life, right? And about 25% have watched it in the past month. Okay, so that's a lot. It's a quarter of Americans. Okay, so just to normalize that, 46 million U.S. adults watch porn frequently online. And according to one study, 87% of men between 18 and 35 years old watch porn on a weekly basis. Okay, so it is just to normalize, it is very common. Again, coming back to how does it feel for you and your relationship is a deeper question, a better question for you. So, but to answer your question about how do you know if you are having a problem with porn, I look at it like I look at a lot of addiction. So some of the common things is, can you go without? are you needing more? So some of the signs of a challenge with porn addiction would be you need more and more and more. You need more intense, right? Just like same with other addiction substances, that you get angry if you have to go without it, right? Like you feel irritable and angry if you have to go without it. You prefer that over intimacy, actual intimacy with your partner. These are some things to pay attention to ask yourself, to get curious with that. And again, do so please with self-compassion and grace, okay? Statistically, they say that if there is porn addiction, they say 3 to 6% of Americans struggle with porn addiction. Men are far more likely. And if you believe that you're struggling with porn addiction, I recommend the American Association for Sexuality Educators, Counselors, and Therapists. So the AASECT has a list of providers for sure in your area that can help. Therapy is amazing if it's something you are thinking you even have porn addiction or want to work on your reliance of porn. There's different coaches that also work specifically with porn addiction, but just know you're not alone. And this is a beautiful question, and you have autonomy and growth here to look at some things in your own life.
Yeah. And I think too, definitely have this conversation. I'm telling you, there's no need to hide porn, and this will reveal more of you, and that doesn't mean the bad side of you. That's not what this is. What you are saying is you enjoy sex. You would love to be having maybe even more sex with your wife. And that's a real conversation you got to have. You cannot avoid that, because it can potentially lead to resentment or less connection in other ways. Because a little thing here ends up being a big thing down the road. So definitely have that conversation for sure.
That's so well said, right? Because you mentioned like little kids and tired and long days, right? All these things are not excuses. They are logistics in your life. So how do you work with that? Maybe there's other ways to, like Toby said, have the conversation, grow your intimacy and other factors. Maybe you're sharing about your porn use, maybe you're not, but like taking some of the shame and guilt away from the porn use might be a really good first step.
Yeah, totally. All right. I didn't even say the name. That was from Porn on the 4th of July. I thought that was a pretty good title.
That's a good
one. Okay, here's the next question. Stormy always talks about lube, more lube, and always have some lube. My girlfriend.
I do.
You do.
I do say that.
My girlfriend gets very wet when we initiate sex, but I'm wondering, is that enough? If we added lube, would it become too slippery and less enjoyable? And this comes from Slip and Slide.
So I love that question. I love that you quoted me as my lube, more lube, and have some lube, right?
Yeah.
So, what is great, right? What is why we use lube, right? Lubricated takes away some of the friction. And there is a sweet spot there. Yeah, there absolutely could be too slippery. So less sensation. If we're talking about we're talking about heterosex, less sensation for her if it's too slippery, less sensation for you as a man if it's too slippery. So there is a sweet spot. You often during the sexual episode, so while you're having sexual intercourse, lubrication waxes and wanes, right? And many couples will stop having sex when the lubrication goes down. So don't, like, if that happens, use lube unless you want to stop having sex, but like, don't let lubrication be the reason you stop having sex, right? And that often is the case. So that's why I'm always like, have a lube nearby, or coconut oil, or whatever you're going to use. But yeah, so getting playful about what is the sweet spot for you. And also every person is different. Some people like more friction than less friction. So again, every conversation Toby and I say, communicate, right? Do we like it this slippery? Do we want it a little bit more frictiony, right? And that might vary, like, time from each time you have sex, you might have a different preference on that. And then the other thing is just being aware that wet does not necessarily mean turned on for the female body. Okay. So just because, and again, maybe your partner is turned on, but don't equate wet and turned on. So this is why I love foreplay and lots of feedback, because there can be incongruence, right? A woman can be wet and not feeling her turn on. So which is awesome. It's an invitation to really ask great questions, get curious, use feedback. And then, lubrication, if you're using external lube, so having lube around can help a woman to find her turn on, because it takes out the friction piece that may be holding her back. So that's why, I'm a huge fan of lube. And it also allows for longer sexual sessions typically, and more variety in positions. But if you're having, so natural lubrication or adjunct lubrication is what we're talking about. So if your woman has a lot of natural lubrication, maybe you need less of an adjunct lubricant. Maybe you need more. Like I can say, have gone through menopause because I had an emergency hysterectomy. I don't struggle with that, but lots of my clients will struggle with that. So they need the artificial lubrication, the adjunct lubrication, so that they can fully enjoy sex. So every woman is different. Every body is different. And just knowing that, understanding your woman's turn on is really the key, and that sweet spot for the two of you. It's a great question.
That was a great answer, Stormy. That was really good answer. All right. As always, send in your questions to us. You can email us. You can email Stormy at lovedeeplab.com. You can email me at toby@marriagesupply.com. And like you were saying earlier, they can email you about the what were we just
erotic energy guide.
Erotic energy.
Yep.
Yeah. Erotic energy.
Yeah. It's a fun one to share. I'm happy to share with our listeners. So shoot me an email, put erotic energy guide and I'll send it to you. It has a journal prompts, meditations, video, and some other links to some resources on there for you.
Yep, totally. Use code SEX101 for 10% off of our sex toy store, marriagesupply.com. And then you follow Dr. Stormy on Instagram, DocStormy1, or her TikTok, Touchy Subjects with 3 S's at the end. And I follow Marriage Supply, the.marriage supply at Instagram as well. What a amazing episode. I really enjoyed this. I learned a lot. I was wondering about aphrodisiacs, and so now I'm going to go eat some avocado.
I'm gonna have avocado toast for breakfast for sure, and some chocolate.
Yeah. All you needed was some nuts, and you're gonna have some kind of a crazy day.
Exactly.
All right. Remember, knowledge is power, sex is power,
and the world needs more of both.